Hello and welcome to Spinster's Library. I'm Claudia, and Beetle's being really cute on the floor, but unfortunately you can't see it. Anyway, today's video is just a little check-in to let you know how I'm doing with Victober and what's going on with me and with the channel at the moment. So I'm filming this on a Sunday morning. I'm going to have to go to work in about an hour. Why British people need to go shopping on the high street on a Sunday, I still don't really understand, but apparently it's really, really important to them, hence why I have to go and sell stuff to people today. But before I do that, let me just tell you about how my Victober is going. So I feel like I'm fully immersed in Victorian literature at the moment because I'm not reading anything other than Victorian literature. But at the same time, my biggest enemy in terms of getting my books read is modern technology, because my husband Bill recently got Mario Party for his Nintendo Switch, so we have been playing a lot of that in the evenings when I would normally be reading. Also, a new series of Doctor Who is on, so that's what I'm doing with my Sunday evenings at the moment. There's also lots of other TV that I'm watching at the moment, like the new series of QI, Have I Got News For You is on at the moment, The Apprentice, which is the trash TV show I absolutely love, even though I feel like I'm the last person on the planet still watching it. Television, Victorian literature, fighting for my attention. But the books I am reading are all Victorian, pretty much. So the first book I finished this month was the casebook of Sherlock Holmes, which funnily enough is not Victorian. So Arthur Conan Doyle set most of his Sherlock Holmes stories in the Victorian period, but the majority of them were actually written in the 20th century. And the casebook of Sherlock Holmes is the very last collection of short stories to be published, and that came out in 1927. So I've now finished my reread of the Sherlock Holmes canon, and later this week there will be a video about where to start with Sherlock Holmes on my channel. The first book I finished for Victober was, where is it? The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This is a solid 3-star read so far. I'm not really going to give a proper review here because that will be in my end of month wrap up as usual. But this is the book that I chose for the challenge to read a Victorian novel and then watch an adaptation of it. Now, I was entirely planning to watch the early 2000s American adaptation, but then I read the news that the BBC is actually working on an adaptation of this, which is going to be a lot closer to the book than the modern adaptations of it so far have been. So this book is set in 19th century Essex, but most of the modern adaptations set it in contemporary America. So for example, the famous 1930s radio play sets it in 1930s America, and the 2000s Hollywood film sets it in 2000s America. So the BBC is working on an adaptation that is actually set in England and in the 19th century, and I'm really looking forward to that. They haven't published an air date yet for this. I think the press release said that it will be out later this year. So even if I don't fulfill the adaptation part of this in Victober, I'm definitely going to see it as soon as it's on the television. So this was the only book I've actually finished for Victober, but I am currently reading 3 more. So the first book is The Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. This is the book that I'm annotating as well as just reading it, and I did a whole video about that, so I will link that up here if you're interested. This is what it looks like. It's mostly just me underlining stuff, but there's also a little bit of scribbling around in it, and I'm enjoying the annotating so far. But I need to organize it better because at the moment I just kind of pick up a book and lounge around on the sofa and read it when I do read it rather than play Mario Party. But what I need to do with this obviously is sit down at my desk with my pens and my... God, I've already forgotten the word for this. In my annotation video, someone explained to me what this is called because I didn't know and I've already forgotten it. It's a silly word anyway. Do you know what this is called in German? Geometry triangle. Other than actually having to sit at a desk like a proper adult, I am enjoying the annotating process, and I'm really looking forward to transforming this novel into something that I have put my mark in, so to speak. So after I'm done with this will be a work by Oscar Wilde and me. All that means is that other people won't be able to read it without my annoying thoughts butting in. Another book I'm currently reading is Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens. I've had this edition for years and years and years. I'm pretty sure I bought it back in Germany in a charity shop, which means that I've had it for at least 4 years now. And I realised the reason why I haven't been reading it is because this teeny tiny edition with its teeny tiny print is just not very nice to read. That's why I've never made it past the first few pages, because the pages are so thin. It's basically like a Bible, you know. It's very small print, very efficient, although it does have some illustrations in it. Either way, I decided that I'm really not into this specific edition of the book, so instead I spent one of my Audible credits and downloaded the audiobook. When I went on Audible and searched for Oliver Twist, there were like a million search results. This book has been recorded so many times in abridged and unabridged versions over and over and over again. So I spent some time listening to the samples, because on Audible you can listen to the samples for free. So you get about a 5-minute clip that you can listen to and then decide whether you like the narrator or not. So I listened to a few of those samples and I ended up settling on the version which is read by, where did I write it down? Simon Vance. Yes, he does a really good job at reading it in a very appropriately narratory voice, while still trying to do voices and accents, but he's not over the top with them. So I'm really enjoying his narration, and I'm really enjoying the book so far. I didn't really know anything about Oliver Twist when I started it. I mean, I knew it was about an orphan. I had a vague idea of flat caps, 19th century London, and a lot of filth. Filth as in dirt, not filth as in sexual content. I'm surprised by how funny this book is, how hilarious the dialogue is, even if it's always in a very satirizing tone. It's always very sharp, especially the way that the members of the middle and upper classes are portrayed as being completely heartless, but in a kind of really witty way. This is the first time I'm reading a Charles Dickens, and I genuinely did not expect it to be this sharp and witty and well written. So I'm very much enjoying the story so far. I'm only 4 or 5 chapters in, I think. Still got about 15 hours to go in the audiobook, but I'm pretty confident I'll finish this by the end of the month. And the most recent book I've started for Victober is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. This is the first book by Anne Bronte that I'm reading, so I haven't read Agnes Grey yet, and I am only 40 pages in out of about 350, so there's still a lot to go, but I'm really enjoying this one as well. The style is very accessible. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe wrongly, I was expecting a sort of mix between Charlotte and Emily Bronte's style. Charlotte's Bronte style I get on with very well. Emily Bronte's style, I detested every word of her book. But Anne Bronte is different. She does seem to be a little bit more, I would say a little bit more Charlotte, but not really. Her narration style flows very easily. It's very accessible. It's very easy to read this book. So this is told as an epistolary novel. So all of the chapters so far, I mean, I don't know if it's going to change later in the book, are written in a first-person perspective as a letter to the main character's brother-in-law. And that makes for a very personal kind of style. You really get into the head of the main character, and because it's written from the future, basically, it's, you know, he's retelling his memories, there's a kind of maturity about the narration which I enjoy as well. And this shows my unconscious bias. The Tenant of Wildfell Hall is a female tenant. I did not expect that, because when I hear Victorian novels and tenants of great houses, you know, I think of My Dear Netherfield Park is let at last and things like that. You know, I think of rich men moving into the neighbourhood, because that's usually how these sorts of narratives are set up. But this one is different, so I'm enjoying the story as well, even though I'm not very far into it yet. So this is what I'm currently reading. Like I said, fully immersed in Victober when I'm not watching Lord Sugar on The Apprentice. The next book I'm picking up for Victober, and also the last book that was on my Victober TBR, is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which I am buddy reading with Andrea from Infinite Text, one of my favourite booktubers at the moment. I'm so looking forward to this buddy read. We are starting, well, today as this video goes out, tomorrow as I'm recording it, and I can't wait to get into that. That means I will be reading 4 Victorian novels at the same time. This is being very optimistic. If I finish all 4 of them before the end of the month, I will also pick up Silas Marner by George Eliot, which I got in the last charity shop book haul that I did with guest spinster Robin. Also linked up here if you want to see us be silly for 18 minutes straight. Before I go and get ready for work, I just wanted to let you know what's going on my channel for the rest of the month. So as I already mentioned, there will be a Where to Start with Sherlock Holmes video later this week. I'm also going to do a Halloween Victorian special with a German touch at the end of the month. And in between, I'm planning to do some sort of reading vlog, but I haven't really decided yet if it's going to be anything more than just me sitting down and reading Victorian novels, or if I'm going to have some sort of concept with it. Another video that's currently in the planning phase is a video about my recent favourite classics. What I mean by that is classics that I have recently discovered and really loved, but that I haven't reread, and therefore that didn't qualify for my all-time favourites classics list, which is also linked up here if you want to watch that. And I wonder if one or the other of my Victorian reads is going to make it into that list. We'll see. So far, I'm having a wonderful time with Victorian literature, and I really hope you are too. How are you doing? Let me know. Have you seen any Victorian literature related booktube videos that you want to recommend? Because I've been watching Katie from Books and Things series about 5 Victorian novels about, she did one on marriage, she did one on work, and I found them really wonderful. So put any Victober related video recommendations in the comments, because I'm very keen to check those out. Okay, that was it for today. I don't do these chatty videos often, and I feel like I'm quite awkward at talking without a script. So apologies for that if it came over a bit awkward, but gotta keep practicing. Thank you for watching. Bye.